Good evening, I'm Ian McFadden, and you're watching Inside Money. Tonight we're looking at problems in Ruritania. Located far away on the other side of the globe, it's easy to think of Ruritania as an idyllic and beautiful place to live. But the lovely countryside stands in sharp contrast to the problems brewing in the country's capital. The government spends money wastefully, employing more people than it needs. It does provide some essential social benefits, but it also hands out subsidies to people who don't need them. Ruritania could simply go into arrears, that is, simply not pay its bills to foreigners. But none of these is a long-term solution. If Ruritania does nothing, its economic engine will grind to a halt. The good news is that Ruritania has consulted the IMF and developed an economic reform plan. At this point, maybe we should find out a little more about the IMF. Here's our economics correspondent, Iris Marie Fay. Iris?
Thanks, Ian. The various reform plans usually involve encouraging growth and opening the economy to outside trade, and taking away trade barriers that unduly protect local industry, stifling innovation and efficiency. And some inefficient state-owned industries may be privatized. It can be painful, but a country in this position really does have to tighten its belt.
Thanks, Iris Marie. The final result of all this effort and attention should be an improvement in the foundations of Ruritania's economy, and that will make life better for Ruritanians. This is Ruritania, well on its way to being a strong member of the global economy. Thanks for watching, and good night.
Good night.
The Washington consensus was a consensus between the U.S. Treasury, the IMF, the World Bank, three Washington institutions, about what was the best strategy for economic development. It argued that the best way for countries to grow was to liberalize, reduce trade barriers, and to privatize. And over the years, the IMF, the World Bank, the U.S. Treasury, all pushed this doctrine of privatization on developing countries. The IMF and the World Bank gave a set of loans, particularly in the 80s, that were called structural adjustment. The theory behind it was that the economies needed some assistance as they went through the adjustment of the structure to liberalize and to privatize. But the problem with them was that there were very strong conditions imposed. Countries were told to get this money, they often had to cut out education or health or other expenditures that were really quite vital. Enormous cost to many of the developing countries.
Like this one. One patient is under intubation with ongoing amoebagging. placed under cardiac monitor, and really patient is really in critical condition. This is an example of how the situation of Filipino people just placed in the government constitution, because this patient is really needs intensive care, should be placed in a certain ventilator because only relative could provide for 24 hours is ambubagi. If this relative would fail to do the ambubagi, the patient will die. So what is the deficit here? The resources, the ventilator and other devices, which the institution could not provide because the patient need to pay. The patient would pay. They have to pay the ventilator. Privatization aggravates the access of poor people to health service, particularly health service. This is a very, very obvious example.
Good morning. I am Dr. Antonio Rivera. I am the medical director of one of the newest private medical hospitals in the Philippines, the Asian Hospital and Medical Center. We can do any type of cardiology services, we have strong pediatrics services, but we can do all of this in what we consider a good total healing environment. And it begins with we have patients come in and have a hospital which has a nice ambiance, which you will see as they walk into the lobby. As we walk into the lobby, see it is a friendly lobby for which patients feel that they're not walking into the hospital, but they're walking into a hotel, as you will see.
Huwag niyo nang kailangan lahat sa kunwari ka rin yun. Kunwari mo ng dressing. Nandito ka mo naninig.